Last week, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed mining firm Sibanye Stillwater announced that 4 senior directors, that is 2 chief executive officers, a chief financial officer, and a chief operating officer will get almost 700 million rands in guaranteed salary for last year and this year. The entire salary for Sibanye Stillwater CEO, that is Neil Frontman, for the previous year was almost half of this amount, or 300.3 million rands. Excluding all of this, Frontman's total single-figure remuneration for the year was 291.6 million rands. By comparison, his total package was just 62.7 million rands in 2020, which included 21.3 million rands in conditional share awards. On the other hand, the mine company has offered a new wage deal to striking miners in a bid to end the over 45-day strike in its South African gold mining operations. The platinum and gold producer, Sibanye Stillwater, last week offered to pay 850 rands a month from the previous 700. But 2 major trade unions, that is the Association of Mineworkers and Construction Union and the National Union of Mineworkers, that declared the ongoing strike since March 9, have insisted on the demands for 1,000 rands a month. Smaller unions like Solidarity and UASA accepted the previous wage offer on March 14. These smaller unions account for about just 10% of the staff total in the gold operations. The strike is likely to have cost workers close to 30,000 rands in lost pay. The trade unions have yet to meet with workers to review the offer. Reacting to this, the executive vice president for the group's SA gold operations, that is Richard Cox, says workers have lost a combined 990 million rands as a result of the strike. The fiscus has also lost 130 million rands in pay-as-you-earn income tax and salary-related levies, while even more has been forfeited in another taxes and mine royalties. Meanwhile, Sibanye Stillwater locked out roughly 30,000 workers at its South African gold mines in early March. If the new offer is accepted, it will be extended to all employees in the bargaining unit, irrespective of union affiliation. Now, the group's final settlement offer proposes awarding category 4 to 8 workers on an increase of 850 rands for each of the next 3 years, while minor artisans and officials will receive 5% a year over 3 years. The offer amounts to a 7.8% increase to the basic wage in year 1, 7.2% in year 2, and 6.8% in year 3 for entry-level category 4 employees. Now, it's quite dicey, but we cannot but talk about wage disputes and the Sibanye Steelworkers strike. So this is Business Edge. I am Lekan Onabanjo, standing in for Tolu Lokpe Adelere Balogun. You're welcome. Joining me from Johannesburg, South Africa, is Jeffrey Mphahlele, General Secretary, Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union. You are welcome, Jeffrey. Thanks for joining us, even as we unpack this particular issue.
Thank you very much, sir.
So information reaching us says that the top management of Sibanye Stillwater will receive some bonuses amounting to about 700 million rands in guaranteed salary for the previous year and, of course, this year. So tell us, is that actually normal, and what is the reaction of your union to this report?
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I think what you need to do is to understand the context of our situation here. Miners are struggling to the core, and the salaries are very low as compared to their counterpart in the platinum belt. So we as trade union this time, we have worked a plan to work together and raise our concerns with the company, Sibanye. So we are not happy at all, because all this is happening at the time when the country is also facing some challenges, and Sibanye's management is able, particularly the CEO, is able to declare his salary publicly so, and against the backdrop of the demands of the workers. Now, if you look at the add-on in terms of the demands, the 1,000 rand that we are demanding, it's only 360 million for 30,000 workers that are involved at Sibanye. So, but the CEO thereof is able to whoop 300 million alone. And that is very obscene and unfair to the workers.
So basically, you're saying this new development is a valid ground for mine workers to demand for increase in wages.
No, it has not been created by that. This is the demand. Remember that we are coming from 1,700. That was the original demand. But as we negotiate with the company, we came to the point that 1,000 Rand is the bottom line and 6% for the RDOs and others, it's the bottom line. But still, Sibanye was stuck to 700 Rand, and this 800 Rand, it only came now when we have embarked upon a strike.
Now, nearly 2 months now, the workers have been on strike for about 2 months now. Now, what are the prevailing situations that actually inform the benchmark leading to the strike? We want to believe there have been some challenges or some brewing interest and back and forth that eventually led to the strike. Can you just expatiate on that?
Yes, we cannot shun away from the fact that if workers are not getting paid at the end of the month, there will be some challenges. But it's better to suffer now than to wait for bigger drops, because the company has shown us clearly that they are not interested in the workforce that is unearthing this wealth under in the bellies of the earth. So they've shown that, and then the workers are determined and they are very strong, because you would remember also our experience, it's not the first time. This mine is going to a second strike, wage strike. In 2018, 2019, we had another 5-month strike, but at that time it was only the section of our union, not a combined union, NUM, National Union of Mine Workers, and AMCO combined. But this time we are doing that combined. So then we cannot accept this situation. We are fully aware that our people are suffering, but for how long are we going to maintain this poor structural pay, which does not yield any betterment to the lives of our people? And yet the managers and the bosses of the company, they are making a kill out of all what is happening there.
But then the company has looked at its purse and come out to say severally that it will not be able to pay that amount or sustain it because driving up the salary figures, of course, as they said, it's not feasible because it will drive up the wage bill, which might increase to about 2.5 billion rands in over 3 years. So don't you think that excuse is tenable? Why haven't you looked at this and accepted it? Or does it have anything to do with the Russia-Ukraine crisis?
No, you need to understand again that Sibanye has made money. They've declared 28 billion in the year to date, that is 2021. They declared 20 billion. And 8 of their, sponsors walloped alone 5.6 billion. Which was gotten by the investors. And Sibanye alone, the managers there, 11 of them or 8 to 11 of them, they have been able to get 852 million. And you ask for yourself, if 8 people can walk away with such pay and 30,000 people cannot be given only 360 million, it's questionable. It's immoral. What do you do with that kind of money? So as as trade unions, we are adamant that these companies must pay, must honor this because the competitors of Sibanye have done that. They've given the 1,000 Rand, and another competitor, which is a new kid in the market. It's owned by 3 black guys. Then they are able to pay 1,500 in the last year of the demand. So we cannot, Sibanye can afford, it's just that. And 3 weeks back, the CEO of Sibanye pronounced that it's not that they are unable to pay this 1,000 Rand. They are looking at the question of sustainability. Now, sustainability affects only the poor workers and not the managers. And who gets the bigger chunk of the money? It's the managers and the CEOs and all the investors and so on. And workers remain poor. So that time has to come to an abate, and we cannot continue in that fashion any longer.
Apparently, from what you've said, I can deduce the fact that there's a bit of mistrust between the striking union workers and, of course, the management. What do you think can be done to bridge that mistrust and, of course, to ensure that mine workers who are on strike can return back to work and operations can continue to begin?
You see, it has gone too far now. We are almost at the end of the second month when the strike started on the 9th of March. So it is therefore important that all parties come back to the negotiating table, and Sibanye must be honest and frank with us when we negotiate. So we don't believe that Sibanye cannot afford that. They can afford to pay this 1,000 rand. And in actual fact, in terms of our research that we have conducted, they can easily pay 17,000 rand salary per member who's working currently for them.
But don't you think this would affect their own pay? Because, of course, trying to balance the books, don't you think it would affect, if they have to pay that particular amount, don't you think it would affect all of the expenses and expenditures that might accrue to the company?
No, they are not paying that. We are actually at peace with that, but not with the 1,000 rand. The 1,000 rand is just a mere it's just a drop in an ocean of what they've made. You see, they've made a lot of money, and then they've divided that money amongst themselves, and they've forgotten about the workers. It's less than 400 million, the wage bill for the whole year. It's 360 to be exact. So they can afford that. Whereas they themselves alone, take for instance, Froneman, the CEO, what he has done, it's really, really unfair and immoral. This man alone has netted close to 300 million, as you have seen probably in your early inset, you did refer to that. Now, what about the poor workers? So then you need to take, and these are not only the perks, this is what has been disclosed to us. In other years, what have they've netted and so on. Now you compare that with the salary of this man per month can pay 400 rand with an ease to each and every worker that is there. 400 rand.
Well, huge claims coming from Jeffrey there. Well, we get to stay with you. You get to stay with us for a while. We go on a quick break. And when we return, we get to talk about the unions, how all of you are coming together to demand what you are asking for. So just stay with us. I'll be back in a while. Now, the latest offer, the Sibanye Stillwater management is tabling will raise the wage bill by 1.67 billion rands by July 2023. And that excludes concessions made in respect of non-wage demands. So, can the company pay? That is the question we keep asking. Will the group actually bulge? Is it sustainable? And how united even are the unions to press home their demands? The conversation will definitely continue. We quickly go on a break. We'll be back in a bit. Do stay with us. Well, the situation seems to be getting murkier between Sibanye Stillwater and Mineworkers unions in South Africa over wage dispute and industrial action. And our guest, Jeffrey Mphahlele, General Secretary Association of Mineworkers and Construction Union, has been opening all the sides to it. So I quickly go back to him now, Jeffrey, to ask you, some unions, according to reports, have accepted the previous offer, while your own faction is sticking to 1,000 rand. So tell us, if and when your demands are considered, or should we say accepted, what will happen to this other faction?
I think the setup in terms of trade unions in South Africa is that one can also embark on a coalition like we are in a caucus with the National Union of Mineworkers. Remember, predominantly those two unions, AMCU and NUM, are representing the black workers, so to speak. And the two other unions, WESA and Solidarity, are representing predominantly white workers. Now, the other striking factor is that they are not in a majority in any case. Now they've accepted the 5%, and the reason being that the salary pay structure, it's not equal. They are getting more money, they are paid more because most of them are officials and senior managers in their respective departments and so on. Now you come to us, we represent the rank and file, those who go underground and dig. We represent cleaners, we represent quite a number of ill-skilled people. So that is where the problem is. Now 5% of 30,000 is better than 5% of 8,000. That is the simple arithmetic that I can give you. If you pay me 5% and I'm earning 8,000, it means nothing. But if you pay a person who's earning 40,000, 50,000 per month, that 5%, it's something.
But then don't you think there's a need for you to hold a meeting for all the unions to come together and speak with one voice? Because it might not be that possible or feasible for you to press home your demands and get it if you are not united. Don't you think there should be some sort of consensus across board?
No, let me tell you, at the beginning of the wage talks, all four unions were acting as one. And we also developed our program as one and speaking from one source. But when the company made its offer, then that's where the problem started. These other companies, these other trade unions elected to take the offer of 5%. And when we indicated that the strike is imminent, we cannot avoid a strike in order to force the employer to come to the party. And then that's where then everything broke loose. They then ran away and then divorced themselves from the other two unions, which it's predominantly Black NUM and AMCO. So then we were left alone. It's not that we have not been acting together. We have been acting together from the beginning of the wage negotiations. Only when we were about to take the industrial action and face the employer, then these two other white unions decided to move out.
So the strike started on March 9, and Sibanye Stillwater says that about R1 billion of earnings have been lost. Now, what is the breaking point for the workers? Because they are actually in the middle of the mix. What is the breaking point?
Let me also indicate one thing. It's not the officials of the unions that are calling for a strike. We had a consensus by members of these two trade unions in one meeting, of which they agreed that what is good for us and best for us is to take up a strike. Now, if members are calling for a strike, we as officials, we cannot say no. What we can only do is to guide. And as of last Friday, when we were testing this offer of Sibanye, both the unions were in one mass meetings and they agreed that we are not going to budge. We are not going to take this 850 rand. So Sibanye must just put the 1,000 rand. We were even told that we must not come back to bring any different report if we don't bring the 1,000 rand. Now it means that the workers are determined, and it's no longer in the hands of the officials of the union. We need to guide and listen to what they're saying. If they are tired of the strike, if the process becomes difficult, we will also converge, and then they will tell us that, no, maybe let's give Sibanye a chance and take whatever. But for now, they are adamant 1,000 rand is needed.
But then aren't you worried about the fact that 30,000 workers are not working, as it were, they are out of jobs? Because some people are saying that this industrial action is worsening the unemployment crisis in South Africa. So tell me, what's your reaction?
No, employment in South Africa has not been worsened by the fact that unions are going on strike. That is a fallacy. It's not true. We have these figures of plus or minus 54% of young and old who are not working. So it's not that. A strike, it's a tool that is embedded in our Labor Relations Act, which governs the relationship between the employer and the employees in terms of trade unionism. So that is the only result that we can use to force. We are simply saying we withdraw our labor, and then the companies are effecting the lockout. So that is what is happening. So it's not true that this will worsen the employment opportunities and retrenchments and so on. These companies do retrench whether they are doing well or not. It's the same. So that's why we cannot clearly define what is the problem. Because even if they're at the boom, they're doing well, they don't pay. And even if they're doing worse, how can we know that they are not having the money? But let me constantly remind you, say that Sibanye has, Neil Froneman has said in our ears that it's not that he does not have money. He's concerned about sustainability. Now, this sustainability only knows the color. When it comes to black workers, yes, we talk sustainability, but when it comes to them, they talk money, billions, and so on. Yeah. So that cannot be allowed to continue forever.
Well, like you said, that will not be allowed to continue, but we want to believe that you'll be able to come together and have a roundtable discussion with the companies to see how this particular issue can be resolved, because the most important thing is for people to get back to work and be able to earn their living. So at this point, I must say thank you so much, Jeffrey, for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, Sibanye Stillwater says that the new offer of 850 rands a month is fair. The unions are insisting on 1,000 rands as industrial action continues. Can a compromise be reached? There will be another part of the discussion, definitely, as we try to elicit response from a representative of the mining company in our subsequent shows. So do not flinch and do not blink. Let's quickly go for this break. When we return, it will be time for NC4 to watch. On NC4 to watch, let's tell you that South Africa's migration patterns over the last 5 years shows parts of the country are facing skills and service shortfalls as more people move, says the Department of Human Settlements. The department's recently tabled annual performance plan, which shows that the Eastern Cape has been the biggest loser in this regard. Moving on now, the value of Nigeria's proven gas reserves of about 206.53 trillion cubic feet was over $803.4 trillion, with the country having the most extensive gas resource in Africa. This was revealed by the Nigerian government, which also stated that the European Union had proposed categorizing natural gas as a green energy source, as this would impact favorably on Nigeria due to the country's abundant natural gas reserves. Now, Kenya Power has been dealt a blow after the procurement regulator froze a 1.5 billion Kenyan shilling tender for transformers following protests from local manufacturers fretful of being locked out of the deal. Public Procurement Administrative Review Board suspended the tender, which was announced in March, pending the determination of an appeal filed by 5 local companies. And finally, oil prices increased for a 4th day on Friday, as concerns over the Russian supply disruptions outweighed COVID-19 consumption restraints in China, the world's largest oil importer. Brent oil futures were up 88 cents or 0.8%, or $108.47 a barrel at 0639 GMT, after gaining 2.1% the day before. On Friday, the front month June contracts will expire. The more actively traded July contract increased by 97 cents to $108.23 a barrel. And that's it on today's edition of Business Edge. You can follow us on social media. We are at New Central TV. You can also download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store and visit our website, www.newcentral.africa. My name is Lekan Onabanjo. Have a wonderful and a beautiful weekend.